from the University of Chicago and his PhD degree in economics in 1956 from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he has received honorary degrees from 22 universities. His research covers strategic marketing, consumer marketing, business marketing, professional service marketing, and e-marketing. He has been a consultant to IBM, General Electric, AT&T Bank of America, Ford, and others. The American Marketing Association described him as the most influential marketer of all times. Today, as the moderator of the session, we have with us Professor Gordhan Saini. Professor Saini is an associate professor with the School of Management and Labor Studies at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. He has published more than 25 research papers in national and international journals, including Social Marketing Quarterly, Journal of Brand Management, Journal of Global Marketing, and many more. He has consulting experience of marketing research projects for corporates and research projects of government and non-governmental organizations. Now, without any further ado, I would now like to pass on the floor to Dr. Kotler and Professor Saini. The floor is all yours, sir. Thank you.
So, I welcome Professor Kotler, and without spending much time, I hand it over to you. We have this format. So first we'll have your presentation, and then we'll have question answer. So there are some themes given to me. So I'll be asking some questions to you, and then there'll be question answer by the audience. So a warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this event, and thanks a lot. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saini, and I'm looking forward to our discussion after I make my presentation. As many of you may know, I'm a very strong fan of India. I spent 9 months in India back in 1956, and I was in Mumbai and Calcutta and Delhi and so on, and all the wonderful places in India where you have very unique things to offer the tourist. I did some work at that time, and I have followed India very much. In fact, I've made probably about 8 or more visits to India as a speaker and met many, many wonderful people. The topic today is on social entrepreneurship, and many of you have been studying that subject. I'm going to give you my outlook on social entrepreneurship. By the way, since it involves innovation, that's what entrepreneurship involves. And there are 2 books I have written on innovation. One called Lateral Marketing is how do you find new ideas, new social ideas, whatever. And the other is, if you had a good idea, how do you actually launch it, develop it and launch it and win at innovation? And that's just background information that we need systematic viewpoints on how to get ideas and how to market them. So my take on social entrepreneurship is right out of the dictionary, of course. It's an approach by individuals, groups, startup companies, entrepreneurs, in which they develop, fund, and implement solutions to social, cultural, or environmental issues. So that means we can find a social entrepreneurship taking place in several ways. There could be any one of you starting up a business, or not, let's not call it a business because that will distract us, starting up with a fine social idea and setting up a web page and setting up a system for reaching people. Or sometimes it's a team. Maybe it starts with an individual that becomes a team and that is interested in solving a social issue. Or it could be a nonprofit organization, NGO. It could be a business corporation, but we have a set of business corporations which are not interested in maximizing their profits. They really want to do some social good. So they are going to be profitable. As a matter of fact, that's one way they would have the funds to help in good social causes. And finally, there are many of the standard companies that, while they're not organized to be social entrepreneurs, they do adopt a cause like help clean up the oceans, or how to avoid overfishing or something like that. So there's a lot of manifestations of social entrepreneurship. Now, moving on, I want to tell you about an example.
Sorry to
I
interrupt.
hope everyone can hear me well.
Sir, your screen is not visible. You didn't share your screen.
Can you see this screen?
Your screen is not visible, Professor. Can you project it on the screen sharing?
Okay, well, I don't know how that happened.
Abhinesh, have you
Yeah,
given the screen,
I'm looking
sharing
for
rights?
my Zoom. I'm looking for my Zoom things, and I thought the screen was visible. Instead, I was
Abhinesh,
just,
can you check the screen sharing option rights are given to him?
yeah, I
Yes.
want to do that. Let me Zoom again.
There is a screen share option, sir.
What I'm going to do is, okay. Now let me do the following. Just stay where you are, and I'm going to try this.
You can see at the bottom share screen option. Can you see that?
No, I'm not. I was on that. I had that ability, but I see what's blocking it. Let me just do this. Now I can see. Okay, sorry about that. This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Yes. Now, whoop. Let me go put this down over here. Here's the story.
Not yet. Still, it is not there. Screens.
Yeah.
You can't see
Well,
your slide.
I'm going to get it by going to what is called share screen, but I want to share my screen. Now, my screen should be. Where's my screen here? I want to be. Now you don't see any screen yet.
No. You may close the PPT once and reopen it again, and then try it. If there is.
Oh, here's what I'm doing. I'm facing something called share, and
Yeah.
I am looking at different. Okay, that.
Sir, if
Now, one of the reasons I had said I would come earlier is to make sure this works. And I've done this several times with other people.
It was working last week.
Now I've got the full screen. I've got share screen. If I hit share screen, I want to get to my.
You will get an option there. Select a window or application that you want to share. So there you have to.
Well, no, I have to go to share screen.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the application that I want to use here, I will go to my PowerPoint, and let's see if this will work.
Sir, if it's possible, if you can share the mail, the PPT with me over the same mail ID, I can share it on your phone. Is that possible?
Now here is, let's see. Do you see this screen?
Not yet. We cannot see your screen. Professor, if you can email, if there is possible, you can email. We can share your slides if you are facing some problem.
Yeah, I could email this to you.
Yeah.
We should have done that originally. That should have been suggested to me. But what I'd have to do is close this down, go and find out your address, and so on and so forth.
Professor Kotler, I will try to tell you. I'll give you some steps, guidelines. Just follow it.
Yeah.
open the Zoom, right? Zoom app.
Well, I'm now seeing all of you.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'm going.
Okay, right. On the
No,
bottom,
now
can you- yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Can you see share screen? That green button. Can you see that?
Yes, that's what I've been using. Now, if, you want
Yes.
me to hit it?
Yeah. Can you please click on it?
I just clicked on it.
Okay. What do you
Now
see?
there's,
What do you see on that the screen?
I see several things, but not my own document that I want to be on.
Yeah, fine. So one thing we can do on the left.
All right, I'm going left.
Yeah, that is highlighted. So now right bottom corner, it will be share, will be the blue color button, right? Yeah, press it. Yeah. Now it's
Okay.
Now
it's
we
the-
can see your screenshot.
yeah.
Well, wait,
Yeah.
are you able to see my screen?
Yeah. Now
Yes,
Yes,
it's
open your
visible.
document. Now open your document. Open your PPT now automatically.
Okay, I've got to see how I open it because I don't see it myself. But here, let's try this.
Now it's opening.
Okay.
Oh, this is a different PPT.
Okay, let's see. I will go to my file,
Yeah.
and here's what I want to open. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This I want to open like this. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah. We can see this.
Now it's
Visible,
visible.
yeah.
Okay. Then let me go on and just repeat, of course, what social entrepreneurship is in my mind and different kinds of enterprises that do it. Now, what I was going to do is show you this slide because I wanted a tangible example of social entrepreneurship, which has impressed me very much. And this happens to have been taking place in Thailand. Can you see the slide, by the way? Can everyone see
Yes,
the slide?
it's
Yes.
visible, Professor.
Okay, good. In Thailand, there was a problem of a birth rate where the average family, especially in rural areas, would have 7 children. And the question was, this was making everyone poor because, you know, every child that gets born is going to make the family poor. In the United States, you just having the delivery of a baby is $50,000. So, but in Thailand, they wanted to do something about family planning. In other words, don't just end up having a lot of children. Plan on how many you want, and treat them each of them treat them well. So what he saw as a solution was get more people to use contraceptives. And he actually did such a thorough job that everyone, this is a medical doctor, by the way. Mackay is a medical doctor, very well known and respected. And so he made it his campaign to distribute birth control pills, which he renamed the Family Welfare Pill. And he publicized condoms by getting McDonald's to carry them. Toll boots would carry them. He got the priests to bless the condoms. There's many, many stories. So there was no one without access to condoms if they wanted them. And he encouraged vasectomies, and he gave an award for being unpregnant each year. You can see the imagination at work. But the fact ended up that in Thailand, now the average family has 3 children, not 7. And he demonstrated social entrepreneurship, very creative work in this area. Let's move on. Now, I recognize there are two groups of people who do social entrepreneurship. Some of them are people who are business people who started off and actually they ran businesses. And then I'll show you another list of those who are not business people, but individuals who did a lot of work. and you know many of them. Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh, the father of microfinance, he noticed that women had good networks with other women, but they didn't have the means of economic exchange. And what he wanted to do is to equip women with credit cards and an ability to borrow money on that basis and buy a little cell phone and be able to let other women make phone calls to others, because in rural areas there was no way to phone someone else, your family in the city or anything else. So there's a whole wonderful story. One of the things I had heard also about his imagination is, like many countries, there's a problem of beggars, and they're always where you are if you look like you have any money. And he wanted to achieve the following: to get beggars to stop begging all day long. So he developed a system where they would only beg in the morning, not in the afternoon. I forget the details, but he wanted to convince them to start doing something else with their time. Now, Ratan Tata, to me, is one of the most imaginative and wonderful business people. And I think we have to credit him with a passion he had to create a car that was affordable. And it became the Nano. And the drive to make something that people value affordable was his passion, among many other things that he's known for. In the same way, we had a man named Nicholas Negroponte, who his passion at MIT, and I knew him, was to build a computer that would cost only $100. Now remember, computers were $5,000 at one point, $500 better. But he managed to work very hard to get the cost of everyone owning a computer if they had at least $100. Now, you know the other people, they're all well-known. Mark Zuckerberg, with his passion to connect the world, as we're connected right now. We are not on Facebook, but the idea of connecting people around the world. Bill Gates has done wonderful work as a billionaire. Both of the previous people are billionaires, to curb malaria, have better water available to people, improve education. And one of his interesting steps was another entrepreneurial idea: to get all the billionaires together who would pledge to give away half of their money in 10 years to good causes. And that's called the Giving Pledge. And you could look that up on the internet, and you'll see pictures of the 214 billionaires who have been giving, who have signed the Giving Pledge. Now, Jeff Bezos is a fascinating person. Besides all he's done, starting from running a bookstore online to running a company that sells everything in the world. But he's really using his time now to build space colonies. And his idea is, we're going to run out of energy, and we're going to need a place to put some of our overpopulation. And it's not to put people on another planet. The interesting thing is to build cities in space, structures that support cities in space. And you will have to hear his wonderful 1-hour talk, if you can look it up, on why he has a passion about building space colonies. And Elon Musk, of course, has created the autonomous car. And right now there's talk that he has an alternative internet. He's working on one that would be much better than the one we have. And also he's also into space work. But moving on, we know many of the non-business social entrepreneurs. Florence Nightingale starting modern nursing and fighting for better hospital conditions, and the great Mahatma Gandhi teaching us about nonviolent, peaceful revolution to free India and British rule. Bob and his work to get land redistributed. And you can read the rest of the names, but they are some of the saints, in my mind, who we honor for social, big, not small, but big ideas. At the near bottom is Bill Drayton. He developed Ashoka. And Ashoka's purpose is to identify in every rural community and district someone who's a social entrepreneur. And I even have a booklet showing about a couple of hundred people, many of them in India, who are their job is to be thinking of wonderful things they can do for people. So Bill Drayton and Ashoka is something to pay attention to. And of course, the United Nations is always active in trying to get sustainable goals. All right, let me move on. I'm doing some work currently in what is called the Wicked Seven. We have about a couple of hundred people who have signed up, eminent people who support the research into these 7 big problems: inequality, hate and war, conflict or war, power and corruption. And so I'm just alerting you to the existence of some very big problems and some work being done on them. Now, we could be more tangible by mentioning specific problems: hunger and nutrition, poverty, homelessness, disease and illness, water shortage, and other problems. So there's an endless amount of work to be done to make the world a better place. And I often think of the common good. I wrote a book on the common good because it is, to me, the standard by which we should judge policies and so on. Ask yourself this: is the proposed policy going to make more people happy than unhappy? If yes, it's worth doing. Now, that's a very simplistic notion, but every time there's a new legislative action, some people will be hurt by it. For example, how about passing a wealth tax on the wealthy people? Well, the wealthy people are hurt by that. In other words, you didn't want to hurt people, but you're going to hurt wealthy people, but you're going to help so many more people who are not wealthy that Jeremy Bentham would say, had he looked at that issue, that passing a wealth tax is right to do because it makes more people happy, given that you're going to use the funds in the right way, than unhappy. So if you want to read more about the common good, it's based on 2 principles: that a great society has happiness in it and has well-being in it. Those 2 principles that you're always trying to pursue. A society or a country that has stands high on happiness, and a country that has a great amount of well-being and health. So that's been behind the major social movements of the time. In fact, the common good was expressed when we voted for women rights, worker rights, consumer rights, rights for all races, the environmental rights, civil rights, and so on and so forth. So the idea is these are movements, social movements, to advance the social good and the common good. Now, I can list a lot of causes. If you're looking for a cause, there's endless causes. And we've seen social marketing, which I will talk about, used in all of these areas to help people quit smoking, to help people say no to hard drugs, to avoid too much alcohol, and so on and so forth. So the main thing, however, comes up that there are trade-offs. always trade-offs. Even taking COVID, we've had so many debates. There's a trade-off between saving lives and saving livelihoods. In other words, one might take the position, oh, just save lives and forget about the economy, or just run the economy and some people will die. That trade-off is under debate in some places. Between lockdowns and freedoms, lockdowns would will end the COVID problems sooner, but people don't want to wear masks or face lockdowns. And then what about education? Should we do all of our teaching remotely, or should we have live school attendance? Those are just some of the familiar issues. But social marketing, I'm going to talk about two things before our discussion. One is what is social marketing and what is demarketing. And social marketing started with my friend Gerald Zaltman and myself. We're both professors at Northwestern University. And we noticed an article where a journalist said, I wonder if we can sell brotherhood the way you sell soap, in the sense that America has been very good at marketing soap. Can't we sell people on brotherhood as well? So we looked at that and we began to figure out a framework for social marketing. And we meant by social marketing 4 things: that you're aiming to influence behavior change. In other words, stop smoking. Or and then you have a systematic planning process consisting, in my case, 9 steps or 10 steps that will get you to a plan. And it's all focused on a priority audience segment. In other words, we're doing segmentation, targeting, and positioning. We're identifying, let's say, teenage girls or depressed seniors as some audience that we want to reach. And we're trying to deliver a positive benefit in their lives. So social marketers look at problems of health, health and injury prevention, environmental protection, community issues, and so on. And 2 issues that got us started, Gerald and I worked on them. One was population and family planning. And this was at the time that India was very busy moving in that same direction. You used to send a team to go to a community, a rural community, and introduce the idea of actually often setting up movies to be watched in the evening by the community members, so that they weren't just at home looking for something else to do, including having children, more children. We worked on that, and then cigarette smoking, and I think we did a pretty good job of getting cigarette smoking down in our work. Now, the whole idea calls for trying to understand the group that you're trying to change their behavior. What are the barriers to the change? You have to really spell out what are all the things that would be hard for the person to do to change behavior. What are the benefits? You want to make them potent benefits that really overwhelm the barriers. And you're always watching the competitive behaviors of others, like marketers and others who are trying to keep you smoking, whatever. And we originally started social marketing thinking of it only as changing an individual's behavior, a drug addict's behavior, a teenage girl's behavior. But then we realized that we've got to broaden the attention, and we began to call that midstream behavior. In other words, if I'm going to change a drug addict's behavior, I might need to know more about his family situation or her family situation. And how can I target the family members to be helpful in trying to help the drug addict change, or friends of that drug addict, or teachers, or healthcare providers. So midstream level is a broadening from what we really discussed in our original article, which was all individual change. So midstream takes in other influencers on the person, and upstream actually looks at policymakers, corporations, media. How can we influence those main sources to play a role in actually shaming bad behavior, making it clear that certain behaviors are not good for the society. So the people who got interested in social marketing would meet every year at an annual meeting in Clearwater, Florida, and it went on for years and years. And we used to have about 100 people attend an annual meeting. Then we had 500 people attend an annual meeting. And my guess is now there's between 4,000 to 6,000 social marketers around the world. They're found in Venezuela and Brazil and in your country and so on. People who really, let's call them social entrepreneurs, but they want to do public good. There's even an association of social marketing people, and you could look it up and therefore maybe join. It's called ISMA, and they have a lot of resources. Now, some people bring up the idea of nudging, and they say, well, isn't that another approach, and a very big approach to changing people's behavior? And I like nudging. I think the book on it is very good, but it's not at all comprehensive. It's just little ideas that you get that would help. I have an illustration, and let's say you realize that people would be healthier if they would walk more. And so when it comes to being at either an elevator or where you can easily be going up, or you have to walk up the stairs, an interesting nudge idea is shown in that picture. Do you want to be a thin person? Then take the staircase. Do you want to be overweight? Then take the easy method. So nudging is another tool in the armaments of the social marketer. And it's a planning process. It's very clear. There are 10 steps, and it's well explained in the book Social Marketing. And in fact, we have a whole chapter on each of these. And there have been so many social marketing projects on any subject you can think of. In fact, don't start your own social entrepreneurial idea without looking up the literature on social marketing. You will find if you want to help people stop smoking, there's hundreds of studies that have already been done. Don't start from scratch. And let's take some examples. Let's say that one of the problems is girls may take up smoking. Why? And let's see, this is going to be bad for the girl in the long run. So you ask the question, why? Why would she? Most girls do not take up smoking, but why do some? Well, she's rebelling against her family. Or she thinks that she would be more attractive to the opposite sex because she's hanging around with some guys who are smoking. Or she thinks smoking actually helps her lose weight. Well, then you got to find out what's operating here, because your solution is going to depend on that. Because if it's about her family problem, there are steps that could be taken to bring her closer to her family. And if it's to be more attractive to the opposite sex, you might find out that boys actually prefer girls who don't smoke, and then show her other ways to lose weight if that's her problem than just smoking in order to lose weight. So that's one example of how we start entering a problem. Let's look at another way to help. Suppose you want to influence teenage girls to avoid pregnancy. Well, some schools have done this. You know, if you bear a child and you're still going to school, you're basically, and if you're permitted to bring your child, your infant, to school, you're going to be carrying around another person besides all your books. So for 1 week, have the girls carry around a 9-pound sack for a week, and that will change their mind on having out of pregnancy child. What about teenage boys who drop out of school? Well, they're going to go nowhere. Have them do dishes for a week in a restaurant, because that's what they're going to be able to do, mainly to just be in the kitchen. Or have them visit a prison to see what happens to people who have no skills of the right kinds of skills. So we call those experiential solutions. They're simulations. They help. This is a simple example of how the Romanian government wanted to get more women to practice family planning and their husbands to practice family planning. I won't go into the details. We've had enough. If you have created a good idea and you want it to be diffused, I like what Malcolm Gladwell in Tipping Point suggested, because you'll need other people to help you advance the social cause. And you should always distinguish between one group called Mavens, who is an expert on the topic. Because if you can identify people who really are experts and they talk about your idea, because they have credibility, they're experts after all, then they will help more people know about your cause. But remember, there's another group called connectors. These are people who know a lot of people. They are high networked people. Even though they know nothing about your cause, if you can get people who are high influencers, they may go out of their way to help you bring the message to more people. And of course, when you're marketing something, you can hire some people to be salespeople and to actually go and create contacts and market the cause. So we can get into the whole problem of launching an idea and the tools for getting that idea to spread. Now, let me mention briefly the idea of demarketing. Professor Sidney Levy and I, again at Northwestern University, wrote an article in 1970 area that we published in the Harvard Business Review that was called Demarketing, Yes, Demarketing, because it was an unfamiliar word. And what happened is we realized how strong and powerful marketing is, and marketing's purpose is to increase demand for something. And we saw some cases where we should try to decrease the demand for that. I mean, decrease the demand for smoking, decrease the demand for, get people to use water less where there's a water shortage. And we gave it the name demarketing. So here's 4 situations where we would want the demarketing approach. First, managing an existing shortage. Like California frequently has a terrible problem of having enough water to grow wine in California, to help people take showers and all that. Or there are frequent energy blackouts in Mumbai, or there were that problem. How do you reduce the use of a product or a service? The second would be avoiding potential shortages, cases of overfishing, over-timbering. How do you convince people to slow down on that or stop doing that? And how do you minimize harm to individuals caused by cigarettes and hard drugs and food with high sugar and fat? And how do you minimize harm to nature and so on. By the way, some of our national parks were so busy, so many people came that it was not fun to be in the national park. You couldn't move. So here's a case where you just wanted to put in a rationing system. A lot of demarketing is about rationing, or actually pricing people to use a scarce resource, raising the price. In fact, if we look at the tools of demarketing, we say all it is very powerful marketing in the opposite direction. You're trying to decrease demand. So you use the 4 Ps. You reduce the quantity available or the quality available of something that people should not be wanting. Raise the price on those goods. Decrease its availability, make it less available easily. And then reduce or do no promotion, or do negative promotion, do ads against smoking, and so on. You stigmatize those who do it, use shame or guilt, pointing to offenders, publicly, create fear, show the faces of people who are long-term smokers, and emphasize the benefits. That if you're going to be a smoker, you're not going to be good at sports, if that's important to you. Pay the person money to drop a harmful behavior. You know, at the there's a school system in Chicago where they pay the kids to go to school. These are dropout kids, and they're paid for every day they do show up. They're getting, the idea is maybe this will build a habit of being in school. Charge or arrest the person who performs harmful behavior. So those are some of the deep marketing approaches. So basically, any one of you could start off as a social entrepreneur. You start a website and you have an idea of something that people might come to your website. You might send messages to people about something they might be interested in. Let's say I start a business with selling t-shirts, but they're all customized with social slogans or something. And if I'm gonna actually be selling something related to a cause, I'm going to need all the systems that help me run a business, even though it's a social entrepreneurial thing. So I go to a company called Shopify, and they set up for me a sales system, a payment system, a delivery system. Now I need to buy the names of and the email addresses of people who are the kinds I'm trying to reach. And there are brokerage firms that sell you names of teenagers, sell you all kinds of lists are possible, listing firms, brokerage listing firms. And now you got email addresses, and you can use Facebook too, and so on and so forth. You can use Google, and you can make your message even variable for different consumers who you're trying to reach, men versus women, et cetera, et cetera. So all of you might see yourself as a social entrepreneur using the internet to start your cause. And by the way, when you do a cause, in the sense you're an innovator, you've thought of some new idea, but work with marketers. We've seen this in business too. There's a company called Philips where they have a great capacity to create innovative ideas. But some of those ideas never get anywhere because they didn't have good marketing assistance in the development of the idea and in the communication and the delivery of the idea. So I always want to see a good relationship between what we call innovative people and marketing people. In other words, there's the danger that an innovator just thinks he or she can do everything without any help from marketers because it's such a great idea. It's going to catch on so well. I think that would be a mistake to not invite a marketing mind to be part of your idea. I've done a lot of work on getting companies to be also responsible, socially responsible. And that book, Corporate Social Responsibility, was a big piece of research. We interviewed 45 companies to find out if they, question number one, do you do any corporate social responsibility? And if they didn't, we didn't interview them. And when they said they do, we said, what cause did you support? Why did you choose that cause? What actions did you take to make it not just what we call greenwashing? Oh, yes, we are a green firm. You can always claim that you care about the environment, but the question is, are you really doing anything? And that's when you're not doing anything but claiming it, it's called greenwashing. And then we just wrote the book, Brand Activism, From Purpose to Action. And we want the brand of the company itself to carry the values of the company. In other words, I should know that brand not only as one making a functional product that I might find useful to me, but the branding itself suggests what values that company cares about. The branding is to communicate the company's values, which I either will like or not. And okay, so let me say that once you have your plan and your cause, you've got to pitch it to get funding. And what you have to do is work up a title for your cause, maybe a brand name for your cause, define carefully the problem and the opportunity, then show what your value proposition is. What's the value you're creating through, if you get support for this social entrepreneur idea. Create some magic, develop a business model, go-to-market plan, competitive analysis, management team, financial projections, and so on and so forth. So you just don't do nothing. You put together a whole thing you can present to people who might fund you and support you. So what are the characteristics of successful social entrepreneurs? It's been said there are four, that there's a lot of creativity, curiosity and creativity, I would say. And secondly, there would be quality to the entrepreneurship, the way the business is handled. If it's a team, the team gets along well and so on. And that if it works, it's going to create positive social impact, a lot of social good impact, and that everything is ethical. It's done with ethical fiber and so on. Those are four characteristics. So I often use this slide when I end my presentation. And this is more for businesses, but I'm really talking about you as if being a social entrepreneur is being in business. Within 5 years, if you are still doing the same thing, you're going to be out of business. So the world keeps changing very rapidly, and we have to keep changing and improving what we're doing. So that's about my message to you, and I hope it put together some ideas for you to think about. Now, I want to be able to talk to Professor Saini.
Yeah.
And there I see you. I see you and you see me. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Kotler, for your insightful ideas on various things, including social marketing, demarketing, and before that you talked about the how social entrepreneurship can be taken by business and non-business and the way it can be done. So we really appreciate your thoughts on this. So we have about 30 minutes. I'll have some questions for another 10-15 minutes, and then I'll open it up for the audience to pose questions to you.
Sure.
So that is So in fact, social marketing is also very close to my heart because I teach a course on social marketing to the social entrepreneurship students in TISS. So in fact, one of my question to you is on related to social marketing. So these ideas that you talked about on behavioral change. So many of our entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, do projects on non-behavioral change-based things, which include product and service-based ventures. So what are your suggestions how social marketing can be leveraged for product and service-based social entrepreneur ideas?
Yes, good. And by the way, I do acknowledge that you've done a lot of work on social marketing, and it's good to, and I hope maybe you have identified in India some of the prominent social marketers, and they really should do what we did at Clearwater. They should have an annual meeting, well, even by remote, by Zoom, to share what they've done in social marketing. Now, so very often it's business thinking that we're doing. Basically, we're to identify. That's why I listed the steps, the 10 steps that go into a plan. I think that let's say the problem of homelessness, and which we find everywhere. Let's say someone gets the idea that the city has to build places where people can sleep safely. How do I, and you don't have to prove to me that's a worthwhile cause, but the point is it's not easy. Many people are who are homeless, there's no money coming from them toward, so you have to raise money from other people to build and construct facilities, tents or whatever it is that would provide safe sleep for people. Now, I don't want to choose one problem, but the point is that there will be a lot of literature on any problem that you're going to be facing. We're, for example, in our book called Social Marketing is in the 6th edition. Actually, it would pay to have your library have all the editions. Why? Because we only make a new edition when we have many new cases. And in fact, here's what a project that I'm working on now that somewhat answers your question. Nancy Lee, who's a terrific social marketer who I've worked with, and I are preparing a book on the 100 best social marketing stories. We just did chapter 2. It will take us a little while. It will be out in about 1.5 years or 2 years. But we think that by describing fantastic examples of social marketing, anyone can get inspired.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My other question is about the scale and the size. So in fact, the kind of examples that we have in the most books and texts are about large corporations. So here students work with 4 or 5 people in their team, and they work with a budget of $2,000 to $3,000, and they start so small. So what are your tips to the small scale social enterprises? So they operate with a low budget, 2 lakh, 3 lakhs, that kind of budget. So what are your tips for that? Which these students cannot really relate to the text which is written on large corporations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
You know, all of these new social entrepreneur ventures start with an idea, and the person who has the idea has some friends who he or she will try to excite about the idea, and maybe even contribute some small amounts of money to further the idea. The same person has a family, and it would be luck if the family is and if the family gets excited about the idea, maybe they will want to invest in it. Now that's family and friends. That's how it usually starts. The next thing is to find out what organizations exist, what nonprofit organizations exist that are looking for, they have the money, but they are looking for causes. And if it's a health cause, or let's say it's to help people stop smoking, there's already organizations into that. And if you have a new idea that will swiftly get many people off of that bad habit, you would go to that kind of organization. Ultimately, you're not going to get far just with family and friends unless you have very wealthy relatives and so on. And you're going to have to canvass the organizations, the NGOs that might be doing this and other things as well, and they might be so attractive to your idea that they support you. This is always a problem. I think marketing is a problem of getting. It's a marketing problem to get funding. So to treat it as a marketing problem. What's the market? Where might money be found? What will get people to part with their organizational money? How do you develop magic around your idea that they get so excited they give you more than you ask for, or maybe you should ask for more than you really need initially. So there's strategies there too. Gordon.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. My other question is about, in fact, here in India, social entrepreneurs work on two segments. One is the beneficiaries of the social enterprise. Other is the consumers of the products purchased by the social enterprises. So one is the provider, and they are creating social value for the beneficiaries. So there is always debate to talk about the target audience. So my question to you is that, is it a good idea to use social value creation for the beneficiary in the promotion and communication of the product and services, the consumers?
Give me an example of where.
So let us say there are artisans, okay?
Yes.
Artisans who are producing handicraft products, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And by the social enterprise, creating livelihood for the artisans in the village, and also kind of nurturing the craft in the village. Now these are handicraft products need to be purchased by the consumers. So would you go and tell consumers that you buy this product because these are made by the artisans, we are taking care of their livelihood? So how do social enterprise in this kind of context leverage marketing principles? So can you comment on this?
Yes, that's a good example because I've seen many communities of artisans supported by their success in getting the public to care about their artistic products. In the American Indians, for example, they are very good at jewelry and creating what we call bolos. A polo is like a tie, but it's really a beautiful piece of art that goes around the neck of usually a man, and they managed to get a big following. People are actually choosing the particular artisan and proud of having his work or her work. So I've seen a lot of, and then I see a lot of shops in different countries where they're selling the goods made, the artistic goods made by some people. I think it's really a traditional marketing problem. It's conventional. It's just product, price, place, and promotion, but it starts really with purpose. Why are you making these objects, and what will they do for my life? Why? The best thing that an artisan could achieve is to make a collector out of a customer, a collector, because that's the difference between buying one piece of that artist's work or wanting to follow his work or her work. So if one came to, if any of your students here have a marketable product, it doesn't have to be an artistic one, but it may be even be a soap product just being sold on the basis that the money being made on that soap is money that's going into a social cause. And so then it's just a conventional marketing problem of trying to find people who, of course, are likely to support social causes, and they could buy it. They all need soap, and why not buy a soap that also makes a contribution? For example, I would like more of us to have information on which companies are the good companies and which are the not so good companies. And that's why companies themselves are now spending more time trying to figure out how to share their values, or how to have values that count with many people. That's what I meant by brand activism. The company that cares, but genuinely, not greenwashing. And as such, any social entrepreneur who is in our audience here might want to actually start off developing skills in marketing soap or some common product, but with a touch of it being about social good, and money is going to go to good causes. That's a good way to start too.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have one more question before I open it up to the audience. So sure. On the demarketing you talked about, and in fact, it's quite 50s you wrote this article that talked about. So I want to know whether demarketing has a role to play in Sustainable Development Goal, SDGs. So we have one SDG, responsible consumption and production. So how demarketing can be useful for achieving SDG?
For how demarketing can be used to achieve
for achieving what? Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, demarketing is going to fit right into the whole cause of sustainability. Mm-hmm. We know that here's the problem I've been wrestling with. A marketing person is likely to be tortured by the idea that he is getting people to buy more and more and more in a world where this could be causing climate change and problems of survival of the planet. In other words, all of a sudden, instead of my getting you to buy everything I can get you to buy, I should use my marketing in the opposite way to get you not to buy certain things, to demarket certain things. For example, I'd be tempted to demarket luxury goods. In a world where there's so many people without enough to eat, how can we tolerate mansions and expenditure? So there's going to be a crisis that marketers may feel, which will help them to go to demarketing as a way to save their soul. And I think that the irony is that marketing, which is the problem, is also the solution.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor, for your answers to my questions on these two themes. Now there are questions coming from the audience, so I will just pick and choose some questions, and you may please answer those too. So there's one question by Mukul. He is asking, do you think marketing issues in case of startups deserve a separate marketing framework like those you propose for larger organizations? So he's talking about startups, social enterprises or others. So do they need a separate marketing framework than what exists for larger organizations? That is his question.
Yeah, every every venture has to have a marketing component to it. And if you mean the details of a communication, you know, a lot of marketing is about messaging and communicating, and also deciding on a price if a price is involved in the purchase of the product, and where the product should be available. So yes, we usually expect a strategy that goes to tactics, and the tactics have to do with the marketing questions, where, you know, the 4 Ps. By the way, there's more than 4 Ps. There's all kinds of things in what we call the marketing mix, but it's just a framework that is helpful in making sure that you covered your bases. So basically, I think that I would like to see the social entrepreneurial plan, whatever makes up the plan, whatever framework has been used, and it should have a part of it which is called the marketing plan, or plans. There may be a marketing plan for just where to place your locations. It's a whole document on we want this product should be available in Delhi and in Calcutta and so on and so forth, and specifically where. There could be a whole detailed plan on each of these marketing aspects. So I can say that I would be more confident of the document about the social venture if I saw a marketing part to the that marketing homework was done to make it successful.
Thank you. There is another question by Gordhan Saini. He is asking what is the most important things to social entrepreneur. So what I think he means is what are the competencies required to become a social entrepreneur? According to you, what are the most important competencies for social entrepreneur?
Well, I want to, I would prefer to let people believe that any one of them can be a social entrepreneur, but they should be an honest one. They should use marketing and other functions to be ethically done. They should have great curiosity about, and actually they should have research capability. We cannot make any assumption about the consumer audience that we're trying to reach and whose behavior we're trying to change. We have to do what we call, we have a whole field within marketing called consumer research. And it's how you can arrive at deep information and empathy. Yeah, by the way, there's the thought in marketing that you should not just understand the customer as a separate figure from yourself, but you should be so good that you are the customer. You become the customer in your planning. And so you basically, I've been interested in using film in marketing. For example, let's say I wanted to get more people to donate blood because there may be real blood shortage or something like that. We used to, some countries pay for people who will donate blood and so on. But the whole idea, there was a big contrast between the British and the Americans. The British never paid for getting British people to donate blood, and the Americans, because they're so commercial, they would pay for the person to donate blood. Well, the question is, how do you actually know how you can facilitate a generous giving of blood by people? Well, you would probably want to film what it is to go into a clinic a setting where there's a woman there, and she says, "Oh, I'm glad you were going to give some blood, and lie down here," and so on. And meanwhile, you're filming the experience that you see. By agreement, the person that said, "It's fine if you, I just want to give blood. I don't care if you film." And that itself becomes empirical material where you can see all the little things that come up in the mind of a person who is giving blood, and the discomfort or the questions they have, and it makes it tangible. And then the film can be turned into a way to make people who see the film feel more comfortable about giving blood. So I think we're into a visual society now. We got to dramatize things more with actual film instead of talking abstractly about just giving blood, and making it a film that would really get all of us wanting to give blood when there's a call for blood to be given.
Thank you. I'll take a couple of more questions before we conclude. So another question comes from Tiksha Singh. She's asking how to create a mix of marketing and social cause that will lead to create a sustainable startup in social entrepreneurship. So how to create a mix of marketing and a social cause that will lead to create a sustainable startup in social entrepreneurship?
Well, it's a nice question to think about sustainability when you haven't even started the enterprise. The main thing I would want students to recognize is the famous insight of Professor Peter Drucker, who is everyone's guide to good business thinking. And Peter said that the two most important functions of an organization are innovation and marketing. All the other things, namely finance, human relations, they're important, but they're not as important as innovation and marketing. So what he was saying is, you have to be good at both, not just one. If you're only good at innovation, you come up with ideas, but you don't know how to get them across to other people. You're failing at marketing. If you're good only at marketing, but never have new ideas, you're not going to get far either. So I want to stress to the student that marketing has to be a very big part of the project. And as far as how to make your startup idea sustainable over time, anything stated that you should do will be not the real thing to do, because the doing of something creates new circumstances, and you just have to have a kind of patience and persistence with your idea to go with the flow. You're always going with the flow of new things that are happening, and if you take the right stances at each turning point, at each transition point, the business by definition is being sustained. But I can't go beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take this last question because there's time constraint. So there is a question from Shruti Parmar. She's asking, have CSR and ESG, environment, social, and I think economic and social and governance investment become just a minute. Yeah. Become marketing and impact washing tool. How can this kind of social marketing be done more ethically? So she's asking social CSR and this ESG investment become kind of impact washing and marketing kind of tool. So how can this be done more ethically?
I think that's a very good question, because we're always preaching doing things that are ethical. And we've done so many social marketing studies, and I don't remember finding anyone that was just a ripoff or an insult to the field of social marketing, but we should be more first of all, there's a problem or question: can some person who is unethical do a social marketing project in a socially in a non-ethical way, an unethical way, and be caught and not be caught? Can social marketing be abused? And how might it be abused by some practitioners? I think the thing to worry about is where a venture makes claims about its success and blows up the figures about how many lives were saved by the social marketing work. Yes, that it could, because that very person wants to keep getting money coming in from grants and from philanthropists, and there is that temptation to show that if you were fighting the problem of alcoholism, you got so many people who stopped being alcoholic, who joined the 4A's group or something, and now they're reforming. That's one issue. We have to think of the issues in social marketing, and I, Gordon, I hope you do too. Maybe an article needs to be thought through about how social marketing might be misused, and how we can spot that as happening so that it doesn't happen. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for
in fact, thank
questions.
you. Yeah. So, in fact, I am writing a book with Professor Samir Deshpande, who has written the first book on social marketing in India with Nancy Lee. So we are actually documenting corporate social marketing cases in India.
Oh, keep me in touch, okay?
Yes, sure,
and let me know when it's published and so on.
Hopefully, by this year end, this will come out.
Very good. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor Kotler. In fact, this is a kind of honor and privilege to be with you and ask directly questions to you. In fact, I never imagined that I will speak with you and ask questions to you directly. On the behalf of TISS and Social Entrepreneurship Department, I really thank you and your generosity for accepting the invitation and being with us and answering our questions. So we thank you a lot. And I would like to end this one of your quote that you mentioned, that good companies create excellent product and service, and what you call great companies actually also create products and service, but they also create what you call world as a better place to work. They also strive for world as a better place to work. So that's the quote.
Yeah, that's my strong belief.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. In fact, that's what social entrepreneurship are trying to do in India. So thanks a lot. Now I over to you, organizers, Sruti and Pragati. Shruti.
Thank you so much for such wise words, Gordhan Saini sir, and also Dr. Kotler. As you say, Dr. Kotler, marketing takes a day to learn. Unfortunately, it takes a lifetime to master. And with this thought, I say, we have been and will always keep learning and looking up to you, sir. Before concluding the session, I would also like to request Dr. Kotler, if you could please share your experience for the day with us, sir. I know the time is less and you're busy, and it's also morning for you. But if you could please share your experience in some few words, so we'll be obliged.
Yeah, thank you very much. The reason I accepted this invitation is because I have, first of all, a great affection for India, and I have many, many Indian friends, both in India and in the United States, and they have made a big contribution to my life. Secondly, I always take it as a learning opportunity. I'm what we call a lifetime learner, because learning doesn't stop when you graduate. If it stops at that time, you're going to be obsolete. So this occasion of an invitation from a distinguished school and very well-trained students was an opportunity for me to continue to grow in new ideas. I at least am walking away, as I just said, with this idea of the ethics and why and abusing social marketing. I got to think about that. So it's been very good to have this interaction with you. So thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope the
Thank
rest
you.
of your evening is fine. Thank you.
In fact, there are many questions we could not take, and because they are really excited to get those questions answered, but because of time constraints, so sorry to the audience that we could not take your questions. And thanks to the organizers.
But you can answer them in your time.
Yeah.
And be the great finder of new things and thoughts from your students. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Gordon.
Thanks a lot.
On behalf of yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of Entrepreneurship Cell, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, I extend a very hearty thanks to you for honoring us with your presence today. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. And I say goodbye to all of you. I'm going to leave.
Thank you.
The day has ended, but the eagerness to learn has only begun. For tomorrow, we have the following sessions lined up for all of you.